And welcome back to everyone listening to this exciting episode of Takeoff. This is Megha Mathews, your host for the show. And I'm so thrilled to have an extraordinary guest today with us. And he's a true trailblazer in his expertise. Here we have Anthony. Welcome, Anthony.
Hi, Megs. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much. So, how is it going for you in this 2024? It's just we're actually at the end of the first month.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, 2024. It feels like Christmas and New Year's is a distant memory now.
Yeah.
And I think I need another holiday already. It's been a great start to the year for us here in the Middle East.
Yes.
Super busy. Everything's amazing. Thanks.
That's great. So Anthony, we like to hear how was your journey into the aviation industry?
Sure.
Let's hear from you. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So I actually relocated to the Middle East about 15 years ago. Have spent time in Bahrain, the UAE, and Saudi. I actually started working within the aviation industry around about 13, 14 years ago, initially with people alongside companies such as Airbus. So I was running a very large-scale project for them, which was alongside the UAE government. That gave me my first taste of the market. Off the back of that, I then expanded my experience with companies such as Boeing, Thales, Saudia, with a strong focus on the aviation as well as the aerospace and defense sector. Working across this region with whether it's the original equipment manufacturers, whether it's the airlines, or anything that's providing, should we say, supplementary services to the industry.
Right. And you are the founder of eMagine Solutions, right? So eMagine has collaborated with prominent figures within the aviation sector, as you just mentioned, and you provide experts for the projects across the government and non-government initiatives in various countries. So let's just try to delve deeper into the updates and insights within this domain.
Yeah, I mean, so obviously there's been a lot of change in the aviation sector. I think post-COVID, I think a lot of the industry, used that as an opportunity to maybe make itself more efficient, make itself leaner. And also, we saw things, for example, like within the airports here in the GCC, where, they used it as a chance to upgrade their operational capacity. So a great example in Dubai is, if you ever fly through Dubai airport now, you'll see that it's predominantly self-check-in. Even if you're dropping off, 30 kgs of luggage, it's all self-check-in. It's much quicker. And I think that's been one of the changes here, that they've used this opportunity to build a more, shall we say, robust, scalable aviation sector moving forward.
Yeah. Right. So those are some of the market trends that you've identified, I believe. So do you want to share some of the other market trends that you have identified within the GCC region?
Yeah. The biggest trend that I've seen in the GCC as a whole, and we'll talk about aviation and aerospace afterwards, is I think the digitalization of the economies. So traditionally over here in the GCC, or the Khalij, as they would call it in Arabic, it's been a kind of stack 'em high, stack 'em cheap mentality. However, due to the rise of technology and the introduction of things like, for example, we've seen things like open banking, central bank digital currency programs, fintechs, digital payments, buy now, pay later, even something like BNPL has affected the airline industry, where people are buying tickets via BNPL. That has changed the whole consumer behavior within this region. And that digitalization has been at the forefront for not just the GCC companies, but also the governments here. Now, within the aviation sector, for example, consumers such as myself and you, Megs, we're now expecting a seamless journey at the airport. Like if you fly through any major GCC airport, like Abu Dhabi, Dubai, Doha, you're seeing kind of new initiatives coming through these airports where you can breeze through passport control only with facial recognition technology. I mean, as a resident of the UAE, when I land back in the UAE and I go to the scanner, I don't even scan my passport, right? It freaks me out. It absolutely freaks me out. The first time it happened, Megs, it blew my mind. Yeah. Now, as a consumer as well, what we are seeing is more improved IFE on board. Now, this digitalization, this has caused a lot of disruption here in the GCC. Because obviously companies are now trying to hire this digital talent. Now, digital talent, in excess of 70% of digital talent globally is considered mobile. So what that means is whether I'm based in London or whether I'm based in New York or Sydney, I'm open to go somewhere for the job if it's the right opportunity. Now, what this has done is it's actually put a bit of upward pressure on salaries in the region. Now, this upward pressure is also in turn increasing the GDP per capita. And in places like Dubai and Riyadh, especially, and Abu Dhabi, it's really causing a knock-on effect to other sectors. So real estate, schooling, hospitality industries, they're all now, kind of putting their prices up, which is now again causing the economy to keep growing. But in somewhere like the UAE, for example, we are seeing up to 500,000 people a year coming into the country now.
Yeah, yes, that's exactly right. And when we're talking about the GCC region itself, we are also going to be talking about the redefined concept of, of nationalization in countries like Saudi Arabia. So you already mentioned about, Riyadh as well. So in these kind of cases, what are the challenges and opportunities would you foresee in the aviation market, especially with kind of these disruption in the GCC region that you just mentioned about?
No, thanks for that. I mean, when we are in the GCC as a whole, I mean, it's not just GCC. We are also seeing this in places like Asia and Singapore as well. But in the GCC specifically, like the concept of nationalization, it's a commendable one. You asked, for example, my journey here in the UAE, that project that I mentioned to you with Airbus, it was predominantly a nationalization project, right? Working very closely alongside some academic institutes and stuff, pushing nationals into roles. Now, the economies here, they should be admired for pushing the private sector to help with the knowledge transfer and the expertise to the nationals. Now, within the aviation sector, I feel that there's three main challenges, and I'll go through the opportunities afterwards as well. One of the main challenges we've found with nationalization is the immediate challenge, and it's the elephant in the room. It's the skills gap, right? If we're talking about creating new industries or hyper growth of industries that haven't really been that big in the countries in the past, you will always have a gap of any nationals having these skills because, for example, if you go to Saudi Arabia, traditionally the universities there, like say King Fahad, was, providing people with skills for the energy sector. Now, whilst the nationalization will boost the local employment, there's going to be a transitional period that we're going to see where skilled professionals in the aviation sector, the actual demand for it will outstrip the supply of Saudi nationals that you will find. Reason being is aviation industry, I'm sure as you know, Megs, it's very, very highly technical, right? Requires special training, certifications, I don't know about you, but if I've got a line maintenance engineer, I want to make sure we're certified before that plane takes off, right? I don't, no offense, I don't want me coming around to, kick the tires and change the oil, right? Also as well, we're looking at things like training and development. So this kind of relates to the skills gap. And this is something, again, which we'll get onto the opportunities in the market. But there's going to be a substantial investment in training and development. This is to make sure that we succeed in nationalization. It has to be a concerted effort by the companies and the governments to build and expand these educational programs and institutions. So this is not just, pilots and engineers, that's, easy ones, but, air traffic controllers, line maintenance staff, like I mentioned, and other roles. One thing I would say about training and development, Meg, not to digress too much, is if you look in places like Saudi Arabia, the government there is driving initiatives where, for example, if people are investing heavily in manufacturing, if they're investing heavily in nationalization programs, they're getting things like, 20-year tax breaks. They're getting things like, exemption from certain quotas and stuff like that for 20 years. So that's a good thing. And I think the last one, is also getting used to the culture there. So when you shift to a more, should we say, localized or Saudi workforce, that's going to make adjustments in organizational culture. When I was first living in Saudi, used to have separate floors and elevators for males and females, right? That's not happening anymore. However, companies will still need to navigate the, shall we say, international best practices, like how we do things, for example, in America, and local cultural norms. And I think if you can put those two together, I think that is the way, for example, the companies that are able to integrate that early on. Now, one of the things that we're seeing that helps with the cultural adaptation is in Saudi under the nitakat, or the nationalization quota, a lot of those quotas have been towards HR staff. So that obviously helps a lot, that if you have a HR who's a, Saudi national, it helps you kind of integrate. Now, the opportunity, should we say, so that's what we said was the challenges side. Let's talk about the opportunity side for it as well. I mean, obviously, economic diversification is a big one. Pre-Vision 2030 being announced, Saudi did have over 70% of their revenue from oil. If you create more jobs for Saudi nationals, it's going to stimulate the economic growth. It's going to increase their disposable income, and it's going to, in turn, reduce the unemployment rate. This is going to, one of the key documents or one of the key mandates of the Vision 2030 outline was to reduce leakage inside of Saudi Arabia. So if you can create more jobs for Saudis, create more industries around that, create more spending in that, you will reduce that leakage organically. Also, Saudi is a big territory. The other opportunities, you get a chance to develop the local expertise. Nationalization, it can help us build a very strong, robust local talent pool, which will help it not only meet its workforce, shall we say, needs domestically, but also potentially become a regional hub for aviation expertise. And the last one, which I know I guess, is something which I guess is a big thing in the industry right now in aviation, is innovation and sustainability. Local talent is an opportunity to bring, shall we say, especially Saudi nationals, this brings fresh perspectives, right? We're not going for the same sort of people over and over again. They can bring innovation to the table. They can drive sustainability and efficiency. Now, this is really good because obviously, as we grow towards, shall we say, more like new technologies, more sustainable practices in aviation, this will align with the global trend that we're seeing towards a greener and more sustainable air travel.
Yeah. So when we were also talking about, the sustainable air travel itself, what I really want to mention is about how Saudi Arabia is also making, substantial investments and, in terms of to establish itself as a global aviation hub. And with the introduction of the new airline, which is the Riyadh Air, it also appears to have the potential to disrupt the whole aviation industry. So from this perspective, or from a recruiter's standpoint, how do you find this? How do you perceive the entire situation?
Yeah, no, great question. I mean, honestly, as a consumer, I'm looking forward to Riyadh Air. We're very privileged here in the Middle East. We're served by some really impressive airlines like Emirates, Etihad, and Qatar. But it'd be great to see what they bring to the table. As a recruiter, I think it really represents a transformative time in the kingdom. Yeah, I think this right now is a very ambitious move by Saudi Arabia. And it's aligning its commitment to expanding its footprint in the global aviation market. So the opportunities, I think, are going to be, should we say, expanding the job market again. So by becoming a global aviation hub, you will significantly expand that. That's, again, wide-ranging roles. Like I said, not just pilots and cabin crew, but ground handling, engineering, IT, execs. I think also attracting that global talent as well. So, build it and they will come, I guess, like Field of Dreams. If you build a big market or you build something good, it's going to give people the chance to come. And the step and ambition of these projects, there's an opportunity to drive that top tier talent from around the world. As recruiters, we can leverage this to build diverse and skilled teams. We can bring in international expertise, which will complement the local workforce. And by infusing this global talent, we can also facilitate a knowledge transfer and also make sure that, should we say, operational standards and best practices globally are being brought to Saudi Arabia. And I guess, as mentioned in your last question, it's a little bit like repetitive, but nationalization policies in place that will be a big significant, training and development. As recruiters, what I would say as recruiters, we need to play a crucial role in identifying candidates, not just those with the immediate plug and play skills, but also those that have the potential for growth, that can be the future leaders within the Saudi Arabian aviation sector.
Absolutely, yeah.
And the challenges, I guess.
Yes.
I think the challenges, I would say, competing for the talent. It's as everybody's kind of sectors expand. It's more people fighting over less people available. So I think that's going to intensify, and I think recruiters have to be strategic in our approach. I think we have to help our clients by aligning with them, providing insights on, if their packages are competitive, what's the career development on offer to these people. That's something that we are finding as recruiters is a more common question now, especially among Saudi nationals. It's not just how much am I going to get paid. It's, where's the growth for me? Where am I going to be in 5 years? Obviously, the skills gaps and the training needs. Again, that's the same challenge we mentioned last time. And then again, cultural integration. Saudi is changing a lot. It really is. However, we as recruiters, we need to ensure that candidates are not only a technical fit, but also a cultural fit.
Right.
They're going to be able to, go to Saudi Arabia, stay there for the long term and give something back to the country. And I think the last one, the challenge is obviously just going to be these regulatory compliance and nationalization targets as companies grow and expanding. In Saudi Arabia, they have a nationalization system, which is called the traffic light system, where, you're kind of like green, amber, or red, and depending on how many nationals you have. And if you're amber, you're basically only able to renew visas. If you're red, you lose visas. I think companies and recruiters will have to make sure that they are recruiting within those guidelines set out by the government so that they can make sure that they meet the operational needs of the aviation sector.
Wow. So, in the realm of also recruiting for the aerospace and defense sector, what are some of the discernible gaps you've identified where the candidates may not align with industry requirements?
Okay. I mean, aerospace and defense, it's, very unique because it's highly specialized, dynamic, and very sensitive nature of the work. First and foremost is skills gap. Very advanced engineering and technical expertise are needed. This industry is at the forefront of technological innovation, advanced knowledge in aerospace engineering, avionics, propulsion systems, cybersecurity. And then especially if you look at, should we say, new cutting edge technologies, which we spoke about earlier, the digitalization side, like unmanned systems, AI, quantum computing, also security clearance. A lot of these companies, they buy equipment from other countries and they only want certain nationals that are using it. So that can also cause a problem. And also, I would say soft skills deficiencies. So the sector obviously is highly technical. What that often means is that the soft skills can sometimes suffer as well. So I think balancing that are the main issues there.
And in terms of strategically implementing, into these kind of, targets, what are some of the, let's say, strategies that you have implemented, in terms of eMagine solutions? What are some of the strategies that you have taken?
Yeah. Okay, so I mean, we've really helped companies by, as I mentioned to you earlier, with the programs with Airbus. We align very closely with universities. That's for nationalization programs, and that's nationalization programs for like 10-year kind of roadmaps. So we're aligning with the universities to find the good graduates and the skills that we need. For example, cybersecurity or aviation engineering sector. We've also hosted a lot of open days. Interview practice with that as well, and international large-scale hiring. We've been involved in going to places like Europe and Asia and running big open days in hotels there, like in the Marriott hotels, where we're bringing in large-scale talent pools to come and meet with not only us, but also the hiring managers, the clients. They can meet everybody in one day. And what we find is it streamlines the whole process. So, we go to London, we book a hotel, everybody comes in. They meet with myself, they meet with the recruiters from the company, and they meet with some of the leadership team. And then that helps them have a better picture of what they're actually walking into. And lastly, I guess what we try and focus on with our clients is we focus on a lot of assessments and competency-based interviewing and assessment. So we have a who methodology as opposed to a what model. So generally, most companies, they always focus on what, 5 years experience, in this sector or this competitor, the what side. What we focus on is the who. So the who, in a short, moment, is like it's the competency-based and characteristic side. So, for example, integrity, aptitude, stuff like that. What we find is that if you hire for the who alongside the what, you have a much higher chance of success with that person, not just for day one, but after 2-3 years for them to grow in the business.
This is really exciting. And how about some of the plans for expansion? Let's hear that.
Yeah, sure. So look, I mean, obviously we're expanding in Dubai and Saudi Arabia and in Riyadh. We've engaged with a local partner in Saudi already to help us deliver projects. And the government has changed some rules there. It came out in January of this year. This is most notably the regional HQ license. Now, what this means is if you want to get big government contract, you need an RHQ. It means you need a minimum of 15 employees with at least C-level. C-level employees there as well. This is creating huge demand for our business because obviously companies coming from abroad, they want to, chase those big contracts coming out in the aviation sector. We're fueling that demand through our partners there in Saudi.
Right. And when we were talking also about, going back to economic opportunities and everything, how can both the local and emerging international companies position themselves, prominently in the GCC region to emphasize economic opportunities?
Yeah, okay. I mean, look, the GCC economies are booming at the moment. You go around the world, Europe's struggling. In China, we just had Evergrande fold in there as well, which is going to have a effect to the market. If you want to position yourself here in the GCC, whether local or emerging international companies, it's very diverse. And a few things you've got to consider is you've got to understand the local market dynamics, right? I would recommend anybody to conduct thorough market research first. Understand your needs, the preferences, and the challenges of the market. And it's awareness of, should we say, especially somewhere like Saudi Arabia, the economic diversification efforts away from oil. We saw a big boom in China about 10, 15 years ago. A lot of companies would send an executive over there with a lot of money and trying to set up an office and expand and, that kind of thing. It didn't really work out. So we want to make sure that we, for our clients, that they get that return on investment. Now, also align with the vision and development plans of the country. So work with the governments rather than working against them. A lot of these companies have long-term development plans. We see that with the infrastructure projects and stuff like that. And also, I would say, build a strong digital presence. GCC, if we look at, for example, the use of internet and social media usage, it's very, very high here. Saudi Arabia is one of the highest in the world for social media usage. Build a strong online presence where you can enhance your company's brand and visibility. And then obviously for things like Saudi Arabia, 90+% of Google searches are in Arabic, so make sure it's aligned to that. And lastly, I would say, build strong local partnerships where you partner with local businesses. I think local partners and local businesses can really help you navigate the country, the landscape, the industry, the compliance side. They've got that expertise on the ground. So a company that can develop a skilled local workforce and invest in cutting edge technology, those are the ones I think that will win over here.
Right. And, as we've already entered the 2024 as well, the final question, the most important, the perspectives, or what are some of the most important perspective or the approach that we as aviation professionals, you think that we must reconsider when we're entering, the market here in 2024? At the same time, what is also like your key advice that you would want to offer to your industry peers and candidates within your field of expertise?
Yeah, I think there's four main trends for the industry. I guess the first I would say is sustainability. A lot of airlines are investing in fuel efficient planes, electric, hybrid. I think advanced IFE is going to be big as well. So, the IFE market in 2022 was 5.9 billion. It's going to be 12.29 by 2030, sorry. And I think there's huge growth there. I think you could see, for example, when we were at the air show, you can connect now your headphones straight to the screen now. Thales were demoing that. I think also there's going to be, with IFE, there's going to be opportunities for augmented reality and VR. This goes on with, for example, Apple launching their new products later this year as well. And then I think lastly, it's about the seamless experience that people are looking for, where, you're going to the airports and, it's getting from, check-in to destination as easy as possible. I think if I was going to go to the second part of your question about advice to industry peers, candidates, I would advise anybody looking for work or people that are looking for people, again, embrace innovation and flexibility. Staying ahead of new technologies and ways of working is going to help you a lot. Again, for companies and recruiters, being aware of the skills gap, working with fostering partnerships, like I said, with universities, government bodies, other industry players that can help you overcome that. Make sure that you implement sustainable practices. It's becoming very important, not only for reducing the environmental impact, but also, there is a demand from governments and customers for sustainable solutions. And, with Gen Z, so we talk about Gen Z hiring. I mean, Gen Z will be the future leaders in, let's say, 10 to 15 years. It's a very high factor for them moving jobs is based upon the environmental and sustainability side. For candidates, if you're looking to get a job in this market or continue to grow in this market, make sure it's continuous learning. If you want to go far in aviation, aerospace or defense, you've got to commit to lifelong learning. You've got to seek out new opportunities and new skills. Also, work on the soft skills, as we mentioned. It is something which is missing from the industry a lot because of the technical nature. And network and engage. build a network amongst professionals, whether it's going to conferences, air shows, professional associations. Really engage with your community. Try and give something back, and you find that will help you move along in your career.
Right. Thanks so much, Anthony. This is so perfect, and you've really, you've really given us a sum of a lot of things across. Thank you so much for your valuable time, and yes, it's amazing. So hope to speak to you very soon in the next episode. Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Megs. Have a nice day. Take care.
Yep. Thank you so much. This is Megha Mathews signing out.
Bye-bye.